Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday. So I hope everyone's doing well. Today I have another story for you, and it's the unfortunate case of Nixzmary Brown. Warning, viewer discretion is advised. Nixzmary Brown was born on July 18, 1998 in Waterbury, Connecticut, and would be unalived at the age of 7 on January 11, 2006 by her stepfather in Brooklyn, New York, after years of torture and abuse. Cesar Rodriguez, her stepfather, would beat Nixzmary on various occasions with his hands, a belt, and a ruler, inflicting noticeable bruises. Nixzmary was kept in a room separate from the other children and sometimes was tied or taped to a chair. In November 2005, the mother, Nixali Santiago, pushed Nixzmary to the floor, causing her to cut her forehead, which requires suturing at a hospital ER room to close the wound. Nixali admitted that sometime between January 10, 2006 and January 11, 2006, she would tell her already enraged husband that Nixzmary had broken his printer and encouraged him to question the child. Cesar, in a state of rage that began over the child taking a cup of yogurt and a broken printer that he claimed was her fault, he began beating Nixzmary with both of his fists and a thick leather belt. Her mother would ignore Cesar as he slammed the child's head into a bathtub and doused her with cold water, supposedly to give her some time to think. Her mother stated that she heard loud banging coming from the bathroom, then shrieks, and then the thud ceased. She saw Cesar carrying Nixzmary's limp body into the dirty room, which was rodent infested, and is where she was tied up and forced to go to the bathroom in a litter box. The child would be left naked on the floor for hours before her mother came in to check up on her, whereupon Nixzmary was discovered to be cold, moving slightly, and moaning. Even though her mother claimed that she tried to warm her up by dressing her up in a sweater and pants, placing next to her to a heater, she again left the child without taking any action and calling her for a medical assistant or rendering any other aid. On the last time the mother checked on the child, she was not breathing. Nixzmary died from blunt force trauma to the head, which caused subdural hematoma. In court, it would be stated that the hematoma occurred about 2 days before she passed. Both her mother and stepfather were arrested and charged with second-degree unaliving and child endangerment. Cesar was convicted on the verdict of first-degree manslaughter and other charges and was sentenced to 29 years in prison. Rodriguez and Santiago accused the other of inflicting the final fatal blow. Traces of Nixzmary's DNA were found on Rodriguez's belt. The indictment also alleged that Rodriguez abused little Nixzmary for months and smashed her head against the bathtub. Evidence of previous abuse inflicted on Nixzmary came to light, and the news coverage of her case later drew public attention to New York City Administration for Child Services, ACS. ACS had received 2 complaints about Nixzmary's family, the first made in 2004, but it remained unsubstantiated. The second complaint was made on December 1st, 2005, when she showed up to school with a black eye. Another story in January 2006 brought more details of the ACS involvement. Blame was eventually assigned to the ACS by the news media, and 6 children's services employees were disciplined. There was also stories that the investigators were swamped with cases, and the Bloomberg administration noted that the ACS was responding by hiring 525 more workers. Nixzmary's law was proposed and signed in January 2006 by New York State Senator Joseph Bruno, shortly after the event. The law is designed to deter or prevent child abuse-related crimes by charging parents connected to the crime of the death of their children, with first-degree unaliving, and the maximum punishment for which in New York State would be 25 years to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During Cesar's trial, it was reported that Nixzmary was confined to a spare room in the apartment with dirty mattress, a broken radiator, and an old wooden school chair with a rope and a litter box. Further, Nixzmary was said to be routinely tied to the chair, raped, beaten, and repeatedly with a belt and fist. The trial focused on the household items that were transformed into instruments of torture for Nixzmary. The chief object was the chair that Nixzmary was tied to. A white nylon cord was still attached to the chair, a bungee cord, and duct tape, which Cesar allegedly used to cinch Nixzmary's ankles to the chair. The jury would seem most disturbed by the cat litter box. At the time of the child's passing, she weighed just 36 pounds when police found her beaten to death on the floor of her Brooklyn apartment. The photos of the apartment revealed that the family fridge was anything but empty. Photos showed a well-stocked refrigerator full of milk, pancake mix, salami, tortillas, cream cheese, lettuce, and yogurt that Nixzmary was punished for stealing the night she died. Medical examiner testified that the bruises were only hours or days old. She indicated that the head blow Nixzmary received 2 days before she died was the cause of death. She was unconscious and going into respiratory depression for at least several hours before she died. In February 26 trial portion, it was indicated that the cause of defense argument was that Nixzmary was killed because she caused her mother to have a miscarriage. It was found groundless because the prosecutor told jurors that Santiago had confided in a psychiatrist that she blamed Rodriguez because of a beating. She revealed from the report that in November 2005, Rodriguez had choked and thrown her to the floor. Within hours, Santiago had miscarried. On April 3rd, Cesar Rodriguez was sentenced to 29 years in prison. The sentence was the maximum term. Before Nixzmary Santiago's trial, she was harassed by other inmates during a bus ride to the Brooklyn courthouse. She had complained to the judge about her mistreatment and other inmates. I don't think anything came out of this, though. During the opening remarks, prosecutors revealed that Brown's last words as she lay there dying was, "Mommy, Mommy." A neighbor would later testify at her trial that he made a 911 call shouting that the 7-year-old is unconscious. Rivera indicated that Santiago appeared calm even though she made moaning sounds heard on the 911 call. Rivera indicated that Santiago told her that her daughter had drowned. She was, however, still lying on the floor, dry and clothed. Rivera said that Santiago was faking remorse over her daughter's death. The jury would find Nixzmary Santiago guilty of manslaughter, the same verdict that Rodriguez had received. She was acquitted of more serious charge of second-degree unaliving. On November 12, 2008, Santiago was sentenced to 43 years in prison. The judge made harsh remarks to her. This is some of the stuff that the judge said at her trial. "You may have not delivered the final blow, but were it not for your failure to act, Nixzmary would have probably not died from that blow. She gasped for air, moaning, and called for you twice until she passed." On an appeal, Santiago's sentence was reduced to 33.5 years to 36 years. Hey guys, so you might be questioning who this man is. This was actually her father that actually gave her the Brown name. She actually has another father that never met her and would later file the lawsuit against New York, and he actually did win a big lump sum of money. His name was Abdurrahman Mihan, and he won $750,000 for her death in 2006. This obviously infuriated Edward because he basically called it as blood money, and he never interacted with Nixzmary at all. He didn't meet her. He had nothing to do with her. He didn't care for her. Meanwhile, he loved her as if he was the real dad. This man, Mihan, had nothing ever to do with Nixzmary, and he didn't even want her to be born. So that's the reason why Santiago left, and she gave birth to her on her own. She went to a homeless shelter. That's just a little background on how this all happened, and then she met Edward. I know that he was eventually arrested for an undisclosed charge, and he stayed with her for 2 years after she was born. Alrighty guys, that was the unfortunate story of Nixzmary. May she rest in peace. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. Be good, stay safe. Remember to always take care of yourself and make good decisions. I love you guys. I'll catch you in my next one. Bye guys.